All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning into the Shut Up or Talk Up Wellness Lifestyle brand, where we focus on mental health, emotional health, and physical health. Our purpose is to share wellness amongst the community and also share insight on how wellness is affecting us on a whole, individually, and how it's everywhere. And so today we have the honor of speaking to Dr. Holly, the founder of Life First Therapy. Is that correct?
Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much for having this conversation, joining in on our health talk discussion. It means a lot. And before we get into the conversation, can you share with our audience some insight about yourself and your brand and your foundation?
Yes. Thank you for having me. It is definitely a pleasure to contribute to everything that you and your brand are doing. As you said, I'm Dr. Holly, and I am a licensed therapist. In my solo practice, Life First Therapy, I specifically work with Black women who experience microaggressions in the workplace, and because of it, they may turn to substances and/or alcohol in order for them to cope. And so, what I work with them on is identifying healthy ways to navigate those toxic environments and getting their voice back and being empowered. Um, and so that's basically what I do. I specifically work with Black women because, as you know, it can be hard for us when we're working in all white settings, right? To feel empowered, to feel worthy. And the imposter syndrome sits in a lot. And so that can take a toll on the Black woman mentally and emotionally and so many other levels.
Yes. How have you seen that the workplace environment affect the health of Black women specifically? Can you give us some examples?
Sure, sure. So a lot of my clients come in with, again, anxiety, depression, insomnia. They're not eating very well, so they may be experiencing a lot of weight loss, rapid weight loss. Um, in addition to that, they may be overeating, so they're gaining a lot of weight because they are not equipped just yet on how to balance and manage their emotions in such a high level of toxicity in their workplace environment. So besides weight gain, weight loss, using substances, not being able to sleep, I've had some women where unfortunately they've lost hair have fallen out. They may experience where their cycle is not coming on as normal or it doesn't exist at all. Um, so it is definitely a physical impact, and mentally they're checked out. It's hard for them to focus, so they show up physically, but it's hard for them to be mentally present to reach a very good level or even just a baseline of productivity. So working in an environment where it's definitely toxic and stressful and you're experiencing a lot of microaggressions, it definitely impacts your work productivity.
And, you know, being in the workspace, as an employee is one aspect as well. How do you approach it for the employer? Do you have any insight or tips that you can share with the employer that can possibly assist their employees in this process?
Sure. So I actually have done trainings on microaggressions in the workplace for various types of different agencies, as well as professions, because microaggressions doesn't just separate, one type of profession from the other. And so a lot of tips that I give employers is to allow their Black and Brown employees to have a voice. So if they're expressing that they are experiencing microaggressions or their work environment is toxic, it's impacted in a certain way, don't just blow it off. If you don't know how to handle it per se, you can follow up and with HR so that there's a connection there between HR, their HR representative, the employee, and the employer. One thing I always tell my clients is document. If you don't document, it didn't happen. It would definitely be a word against that person, right? And so when you go to the employer, on the employee side, you have the proof, you have the receipts, right? The documentation. And so if the employer doesn't acknowledge that, your next step will be HR. So as an employer, you definitely want to take whatever is being reported to you seriously because it could lead to litigations, which I've testified in court behind big lawsuits when it comes to microaggressions, right? And it could kill the morale, not to mention retention. And so as a, CEO myself, you don't want a high level of turnover or retention, right? You want to do whatever you can to make sure that this employee feels safe and that you're taking what they're saying serious.
Yes.
Not every time you go to HR, it's helpful, but again, you've done your due diligence. And once an employee has gone through all those stages, then it may be time to consult with the ELC and or a lawyer.
You know, when we think about the workplace and we even think about the workload and you mentioned, you know, increase of eating or decrease of eating. Do you think that when it comes to like nutrition and things like that, do you think that the workplace can assist with that? Let's say the lunchroom environment. Do you think that you know, if you have a toxic work environment and you go to the lunchroom, it's all junk food and it's just like, you know, not not foods or even things like of that nature, something to uplift your employees. You know, if your break room is it's not uplifting, or if those spaces where, you know, your employees are supposed to go to decompose or eat or have, you know, those, you know, get through their day. If it's not you know, uplifting, or if it's everywhere, if it's toxic, even in those spaces, that is very difficult. I've experienced that myself, having to deal with the microaggressions in a workplace. And then I can't wait for my lunchtime. Who can't wait for their lunchtime in certain places? I can't wait to go to lunch, you know, that break.
I think it's uncomfortable for different reasons, but I just encourage my clients and any other Black woman who isn't my client but are experiencing microaggressions in the workplace, you gotta say something. And it's kind of like how we encourage or are upset when white people are silent, right, or complicit to racism. Well, I'm going to hold you as accountable as a Black and brown woman to not be complicit to microaggressions in the workplace. Like,
I
point it
agree.
out. Yeah, hold you can't hold somebody else accountable for being complicit to racism by being silent, but yet you don't advocate and speak up for yourself. That's not a good look. So
Yeah.
I do want to put that out there, and that's why I'm saying I empower them to have their voice back, right? And so it can be difficult, but it must be done, right? Other than that, then who's going to advocate for you?
Yes.
Nobody, right?
Yes.
HR sure won't advocate because HR has no ideas going on. And even if your employer is in a position where they can help you, they can't troubleshoot something they know nothing about. So it's very key. Like, you have to speak up and you have to say something, even if you don't feel like you can use your voice. There's email, right? Send an email. You can write a formal letter, but you have to give your voice some level of platform so people are aware. You mentioned about, nutrition and things like that as far as the environment in the break room. I do think they play a part, but they're more like band-aids over a gun wound. And so what that means is that you can give me a hammock, you can give me a nice massage chair, you can give me a break room that's full of nutritious snacks, right? But if the toxicity is still there, how much of that is really going to be absorbed and
Right.
enjoyed, right? Because I've worked in a very toxic work environment, and our break room was amazing. We had lots of art. We were able to leave like nice notes for our coworkers and support them throughout the day, because being a therapist is very hard work. It may not be physical laborious, but it is very hard work. And
Yeah.
so you had rows of massage chairs.
Oh yeah.
You
I
had people were bringing different things, but it was extremely toxic. So it was like,
mean,
I don't even want to go out of my office to enjoy that luxurious space that was set up for me. We had self-care Fridays. Like, I've been in those environments. So again, if the main issue isn't really troubleshooted, I personally, if I'm in a bad space mentally, physically, and emotionally, I don't even want to go out to enjoy those spaces. So what I started doing was, because I'm not emotional either, but I know some women are. I would go out and just go out on breaks. Like, I would go outside, get sunlight, right? Get that vitamin D in. And if it was raining or if it was cold, I would still find a way to leave the building, and I would go to like a bookstore. And then I would call people or text people that I know, like family and friends, that were very encouraging and supporting, that just kind of took my mind away from that and talked about things and joked and laughed and things like that. But it does play a part in having those type of things there, but you still have to get to the root of the issue.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I mean, you gave a lot of tips and useful information. Can you tell us a bit more about your foundation, where our audience can find your content, your services, any upcoming events?
Yeah, sure. Thank you. So again, my solo practice is called Life First Therapy. I am on Instagram. So my handle is Life First Therapy LLC. Life First Therapy LLC. I have a women's summit event coming up in Philadelphia. I'm not the host, but I will be there. I'll have a booth. So if anybody wants to come out, that is Sunday, April the 24th. We'll be
Okay.
there from about 9 a.m. to about 3. And the tickets are like $10, but the summit is going to be amazing because they're going to have so many major speakers and they're all women, right? From throughout the country. Yeah. And they have them throughout, different cities and stuff like that. But for anybody who's local, whether you're in South Jersey, Philly, Delaware, you
Yeah.
could, come on up on that Sunday.
I definitely will share that information as well. And we want to thank you so much for participating, for
Yeah.
sharing this insight. It's amazing what you're doing. You have a unique audience. It's a niche, right? You're getting into the uncomfortable space, which is where people make their money. And it's uncomfortable for the employer. It may be uncomfortable for the employee, but you see the need for it. And I'm sure you're helping many women, even just by, we came across your page through Instagram. And then we
Okay.
were like, okay, yes, all of this. And so I personally want to say thank you so much again for participating. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Health Talk segment, the Shut Up and Talk Up Wellness Lifestyle brand Health Talk. And we had the honor of speaking to Dr. Holly. Please check out her Life First Therapy services. And her Instagram handle is Life First Therapy LLC.
Yes.
That's right. Check her out. Thank you, everyone.